Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here, and welcome back to the Runebound Retrospective. And this is episode 4. And in this episode, we will take a look at the big box expansion, The Sands of Al-Kalim. Now, I thought this series, this retrospective, would be a lot more popular than it is. I'm a little disappointed in the views. I know people said they liked seeing really in-depth series on games. I ran a poll, and like 90% of hundreds of people who responded said they like the in-depth series, and people like to see things on old games because a lot of YouTube channels focus on newer games. So we are going to continue, low views be damned. But if you do like seeing this kind of stuff, please give a watch, please give a thumbs up, and please help share it because I really like this series. And this is something that I wanted the Dungeon Dive to be from the very beginning when I started the channel 5 years ago. Is a kind of museum to all of these great games that we love, if they're in print or if they are out of print. But anyways, let's take a look at Runebound, The Sands of Al-Kalim. So this says, there is a legendary land, a place long lost. It is as much a dream as it is an actual time and place. Many have attempted to find it once more, but like a mirage in the desert, it has forever eluded them, remaining tantalizingly on the horizon. It is a harsh place of blowing sands and dangerous creatures, of beautiful cities and alien magics. It is the land of Al-Kalim. You play a brave explorer who has found the key to this hidden realm. Now the only question that remains is whether you will forge your own entry into the 99 tales of Al-Kalim, becoming an immortal hero, or whether you too will be buried by the sands of time and obscurity. Rather than drawing encounters and event cards that describe the set story, this expansion allows the heroes to tell their own tales. Surely they will have to face legendary challenges, but along the way, they will explore mystic locales. Or will they recruit courageous companions, tame mighty mounts, or craft powerful runes? The tale is in the heroes' hands, and only they can decide how best to fulfill their own destinies. So I think the storytelling part of that is a little exaggerated. I'm wondering if they were trying to maybe capitalize on the popularity of Tales of the Arabian Nights. I think when this came out, the second edition of Tales of the Arabian Nights was not actually out yet. I'm not sure, but they are somewhat similar. So this game takes place in a desert setting, and we have our desert map, our desert overlay map here, as you can see. And this is probably my least favorite setting in Runebound. I'm not a huge fan of desert settings, even in video games. Whenever I get to the desert level, I'm always kind of like, oh, okay, here comes, a few hours spent looking at nothing but brown. And there seems to be fewer interesting locations to explore in a desert. So in that sense, this is probably my least favorite of the Runebound expansions. However, I do like a lot of what this expansion has to offer. So let's take a look at what we get in this expansion and some of the differences that this expansion adds. First of all, you're going to get 6 characters. Right now, I am playing with Arum the Sorcerer. And then we also have Corbin the Axe Bearer, Salah the Shaman, Talia the Thief, Kurga the Tracker, and Alium the Dervish. So those will be our 6 characters that we can play with. This expansion also comes with these little placards that you are supposed to put your character card on, and then you can keep track of your quests and your quest totals on this little placard. Not very necessary, but just a little extra piece of cardboard that this game comes with. Like the Frozen Wastelands expansion, you will also get some survival items, some tools, some survival tools that you can buy to help you survive the harsh wilderness. Whereas Frozen Wastelands, you were having to survive the cold and you could get frostbitten and you had to constantly stay warm. In the Sands of Al-Kalim, it's the opposite. You are trying to stave off your thirst. You're trying to have water and travel quickly throughout the dangerous desert environment. And to help you with that, you can buy a camel, and the camel will help you move. You can buy some gear for during your story step. You can add 3 to any of your challenge rolls. And then you can also buy some water, and this will help you avoid taking damage while you are traveling during the hot desert days. So also my character right now, I do have a dwarven fire mug, which is an explosive that I can throw out like a grenade at the before combat. I have the sword of the air, and this is a special sword that I just purchased. And then I've also have a couple cards stowed away in my inventory for when the time comes to use them. These are both bandits, and they can help me. I can discard these at certain times during the adventure to give me some certain benefits. I am also joined by a companion here, a diminutive scoundrel, a halfling scoundrel, and he can take a special before combat action to do some damage to an enemy. One of the things that this expansion does add is a very large deck of new allies. And these allies are kind of specially formulated for survival in the desert wasteland. And so the different allies we will get, we have a living legend, we have the court wizard, the eldest sister, the sun sorcerer. I love that drawing there. That is amazing. A camel driver, a legend seeker, a desert guide, the middle sister, a daring sellsword, a wise stargazer, a treasure seeker, a bandit princess, an exiled northerner, a messenger, a simple hermit, a street acrobat, the youngest sister, a young slinger, a canny nomad, a minor genie, a light blind archer, and a prince in disguise. What I like about this expansion, Runebound, all these allies, there's a good variety of male and female allies to hire. I think that's really cool. One thing we didn't look at is the art. The art credits. So once again, the cover art is designed by Jesper Rising, and it is very good. It's not my favorite. My favorite, of course, is the Frozen Wastes. I think I might have called that the Frozen Wastelands before, but the Frozen Wastes. And but it is still very good. And let's see the other artistic credits here. So we have the Sands of Al-Kalim expansion, designed and developed by Robert Vaughn. Additional development by John Goodenough, cover art by Jesper Ising, and card art by Banu Adamiku, Carlo Bocchio, Jason Embry. Some new names here: John Goodenough, Saul D. Orejuela, Ben Prenavost, Freddie Siloy, Tim Van Gent, Frank Walls, and others. So actually quite a few new names providing art that weren't on the credits for the previous expansions that we have looked at. One thing that the Sands of Al-Kalim adds to the Runebound experience is a different win condition. In this game, you are trying to quest for a number of legendary items, legendary quests that you are going on. You can look for legendary allies, or perhaps legendary mounts. You can find legendary items, you can craft legendary runes, and you can search for legendary locations. Each one of these quest decks has a number of cards. I think it's 5 in each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cards in each quest deck. On one side, you will have a little story about the quest. You will have the things that you need to do to solve that quest. And then once you solve the quest, you can flip it over, and then you will get the benefits of having found that location, or having hired that legendary ally, or having that legendary mount, or that legendary item or rune in your possession. The goal of the game is to solve 4 of these legendary quests, and that's easier said than done. Because as you gain an experience, you have the ability to draw more and more of the legendary quests, so you have more options to solve those. However, some of the encounter cards will actually cause you to discard different quests. So there is kind of a risk and reward for as you are pushing out into the desert environment and going on having your encounters. Sometimes you might draw an encounter that will tell you to discard one of your legendary quests, even if you have already solved it. So there is this kind of push and pull and kind of a press your luck element to solving those quests. I can see good and bad things about that because of that pressure luck element. However, it can also make the game a lot longer, especially if you are playing with more than two people, because it can prolong the game. Somebody might get really close to winning and then they will lose one of their hard-earned legendary items or legendary quests, and then they kind of have to start over again. So that can be a little hard to stomach sometimes, just because it can really prolong the game. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that ability, but in a solo game, it doesn't matter too much because the games aren't very long. We'll take a look here finally at the red cards here. Okay, so another thing that the Sands of Al-Kalim adds are these special locations, the City of Clouds, the City of Dreams, and the City of Faith. At certain points, you can discover these legendary cities, and they might appear at different places on the map. And once all three are out, the next time something triggers one of them to appear, they actually all vanish again and they go into the ether. And then you have to go out and search for these special cities again. And each one of those cities has a special thing that allow your hero to partake in, such as the City of Faith. You can heal all wounds. The City of Dreams. A player whose hero explores the bazaar here may browse the top 5 cards from the market deck so you have more choice in what to purchase. And the City of Clouds, a player whose hero explores the bazaar here may move his hero figure to any space on the board at the start of the next experience step. One thing that this game does do away with is the market step. And so instead of a market step, there is a story and adventure step. And that can change depending on where you are on the map. If you are in a city, for instance, you can have a bazaar step, which is like a market step where you can go and purchase your items. And I still use my house rules, which I covered in the original introduction video to this series for the market. And instead of using the allies deck from all of my expansions, I use the special allies deck for my tavern deck in my house rules for the market step. So you can visit a bazaar and go to the market there. If you are on a hex that doesn't have any kind of adventure token or anything, then you have to roll one of the movement die. And when you roll that, you have to follow these various story effects that happen because of the face that you rolled. And so these are interesting. You can have things such as the dune symbol. The hero becomes suddenly aware of the threats that lurk in the harsh land, and that might change if it is day or night. That's another thing that the game adds is when you wake up in the morning at the beginning of each turn, you have to decide if you are adventuring during the day or during the night. If you adventure during the night, a lot of the enemies are a little bit stronger than they are during the day. And so each of the encounters will have a day value or a night value and a day value for their life. So that is somewhat interesting, but you do have to remember from turn to turn to make that decision before you undertake your turn. You might find a road symbol. The hero and his companions come upon an old well sunk into the hillside. There you can discard your fatigue. Now, if you roll a lowland symbol, then the wind blows, and that causes this huge storm hex to travel around the land. And if the storm covers up things, then those spaces are no longer searchable, or you can no longer encounter those spaces. And if a storm hex, if it is covered by the storm, that hex becomes terrainless. And so you can't use any movement dice to move into that storm. You can only move into it one hex at a time if you have to pass through it. So it can really delay your adventure. Those are the main things that the Sands of Al-Kalim adds and changes to the Runebound experience. Let's take a look some more at some of these quests here. So I have already solved the Guard of Honor, gaining a guard. So I have this legendary ally here who can help me. And right now I am on a quest to find the Call of the Lamp. But there are other allies, legendary allies. You can find the Merchant of Mystery, the Tamer of Beasts, the Band of Thieves, and the Teller of Tales. Then you have a little story on there. So this says, you see a lovely woman on the other side of a canyon, singing a song of such beauty that it makes your heart ache. This wandering teller of tales will only join one who has the potential to perform heroic deeds, like defeating a dangerous monster and surmounting the obstacles between you and her. To complete this quest, you must defeat a challenge in a canyon space in the Shadow's Gate Rift. You must then succeed at the following test. You have to climb, swim, and test climb again in order to defeat that challenge. So that's pretty cool. And then we also have here on a dark steed, on a mighty mount, burrowing beneath, sailing the sands, flying high above. Here we have a magic carpet, a sand skiff, a sandworm, a dune burrower, a war elephant, and an ebony steed. Those are great. And here we have some more of our legendary items that we can find. The Scarab of Sands, the Scepter of Light, the Map of Mysteries, and the Ring of Luck. And then here we have our legendary runes that we can quest for. The Rune of Life, the Rune of the Wind, the Rune of Summoning, the Rune of the Sun, and the Rune of the Foe Bringing. And then finally, we have our legendary places. And that is the Cave of Chaos. I love that. That's awesome. The Den of Thieves, the Well of Faith, the Tower of the Sages, and the Valley of Exiles. I think all in all, I think this is a good expansion. I think it adds a lot for the solo play because of these quests and because of these story effects. I'm not a huge fan of the survival element of the terrain being so difficult to move through and having to take fatigue a lot. Because if you decide to move during the day, the sun beats down on your adventurers and your companions, your allies, and you end up taking a lot of fatigue damage. So you have to spend a lot more time in this particular expansion resting in order to alleviate some of that buildup of fatigue. Or you need to make sure you have lots of water in order to drink while you are exploring the desert. This storm, I think the storm is probably more fun in a competitive game because it can be kind of a take that element where the player who rolls up the lowland symbol, the winds blow, they get to choose the direction that it moves in. So that's kind of cool as kind of a take that element. But overall, it's pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of the desert setting. And I think that's the thing that keeps this lower on my list of favorite Runebound expansions. But I do like a lot of the things it adds, and I like a lot of the elements. I am also, of course, using the Cities of Adventure house rule expansion here. And we will have cards for all of our different cities. Syriasa, the Trader's Fort, the City of Dreams, City of Faith, the Court of Wisdom, the Prison of the Efreet, the City of Clouds, Iram, and Harum. So you will have different little adventures that can take place in all of those cities. This is a great little fan-made expansion. And in this expansion, I am also using the Caves. Now, the Caves was one of the fan expansions that I purchased right when I started this series, and I just got it about a week ago. And this I purchased from ArtsCal along with with the same place that I got my other fan-made expansions. And this adds a series of yellow adventures, so medium or easier adventures that you can discover if you find the right yellow token. So on one of the yellow tokens on this map, let's see if I can find it. There it is. I drew a C. And I wrote a C, I should say. I didn't draw the C. I wrote a letter, but that was right here. So if I ever went to this particular space and I flipped this over and found the C, that would be the entrance into the caves. And then once you find that, you can go into the caves and have a variety of different adventures. I'm a little disappointed in this expansion because it is pretty slim and you get a lot of duplicates. For instance, so that card is duplicated, and the mushrooms is duplicated, and the disenchanter beast is duplicated. So most of the cards are duplicated, and I think that's a little on the disappointing side because there aren't very many to begin with. And then within those caves, you can find a subsystem to explore, and that is the Ferox City. And again, if you explore the Ferox City, you have a small little deck of cards to explore, but a lot of them are also duplicates again. So there's not a lot of variety in this little fan expansion. This would be the fan expansion that I prioritized last. I would get the other fan expansions such as the questing and the Overland Adventure expansions. I would get the other expansions that I mentioned in the first video way before I got these. If you want a little more variety, then I would get these. I wish that these had a deck of caves for green adventures and the blue/purple and the red as well, but they don't. It's only for yellow, at least from what I can tell. I haven't been able to find any others. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this expansion, The Sands of Al-Kalim for Runebound 2nd Edition. If you're enjoying these retrospective videos, these deep dives, please help me spread the word because I would like to get more eyes on this series. I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and they're kind of underperforming, which is a little bit of a disappointment. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.